y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Horror of the Worlds. I'm Curtis Gerhart.
I'm Stephen Miller.
And I got some bad news today. I ended up watching a fucking movie about 7 days ago. And it told me that I was going to have to make a podcast or I'm going to fucking die. So that's why we are here. And if you know the reference, you know what we're actually talking about.
Yep.
So I guess something that we probably should have said before, like we will end up spoiling movies. Like we're not going to get highly in depth into the movie itself. Like we're not dissecting the movie for the most part. But you know, hopefully we give you enough detail where it doesn't ruin the movie or it makes you want to watch the movie.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't help.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you need that info to like, all right, now I want to see that movie.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like sometimes you just need that little nudge. We're here for that nudge.
Yeah.
You know, I think what I wrote down, I'm not going to look at my tablet right now, is we need you guys to be the light switch so we could turn you guys on.
Exactly.
But yeah, so today we're going to be talking about pretty much the early 2000s Japanese tech horror and stuff, which a lot of these movies A1 has heard of and probably has seen. If not for these, I think every one of these movies has an American remake.
For me, I had only seen the American remakes up until I had to do the research for this one. And I'm actually happy I went back and watched them because it had a lot more story going on in all of them than the American.
They had almost a little bit more heart, like a little bit more of a story compared to just a graphic detail.
There should have been some team working done. I feel like the artistry done with the images and stuff like that with the American versions, they could have collaborated a little bit more with the fucking storytelling because the story was on point.
Honestly, I think these movies would have exploded more than they already did if there was more collab. But we're going to go and start off like in the 80s for the most part. A little bit of the history for like the 80s tech. So like Japan had actually a decent size boom in the 80s where, anime and manga started to actually establish a foothold in media, which is freaking great. And one of my favorite animes is Dragon Ball Z, which came out, I think, in 89. I fucking love Dragon Ball Z. I'm not up to date to it, but I still love it. It is still a love of mine. But they also came out with the Walkman, which hopefully everyone that watches this knows what a freaking Walkman is.
Yeah.
I mean, watch Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
You'll find out what a Walkman is. And a Zune.
Oh, my God.
Which I had.
I loved my Zune.
Zune over iPod every day, for me at least. But they also had a good boom in robotics when it comes to mass production and line production, which helped speed up processing and all that stuff. They actually made things easier in a way. And they also came out with a weird tech that somehow that's still around today. Like it's not that well known. It's kind of, but Nintendo, Famicom. You know, I mean. Like that's something that's not in everyone's household nowadays for the most part, or has ever touched those 5 button controllers. But yeah, like with all this stuff, with all that kind of tech, that we kind of realized that it's not really not really creeping into our lives. It literally walked into our lives. Like all that kind of tech just boomed in the 90s. Like it's even here in the 90s. I mean, we're recording on Samsung which I don't think Samsung's Japanese.
No. I don't know, maybe.
No, it's a Korean.
Huh?
Hopefully I had enough pauses so I could edit this shit out. Because I'm second guessing everything, even though I own nothing but fucking Samsung. Holy shit. All right. Yeah, so first off, we're going to talk about Tetsuo, the Iron Man, the movie that put Robert Downey Jr. to shame back in 1989.
Oh, yeah. God damn. Disturbing as fuck. Loved it.
Like, that's, I guess disturbing is a great word for it, too. Yeah, it came out in 1989. As of right now, it is currently streaming on Shudder. And director-writer Shinya Tsukamoto. Yeah, like it is such a trip of a freaking movie.
Oh yeah, no, it starts off pretty strong. I mean, it sucked me in instantly. Kept me going until the end.
I think the visuals of it all as well.
Yeah, I'm auditory focused, and this one really fucked with me.
It's honestly a movie I could probably put on and just fall asleep with. I like having it on in the background.
I could not do that with this one. Oh hell no!
I guess like that if Disturbed was better.
Yeah. That's fucking gnarly.
But yeah, all right. So like the movie starts off with a man that ends up getting like an infecting. Oh yeah, I forgot about this part. Yeah, so the movie like ends up starting off with a bat that has a virus, and the virus begins to spread from person to person and stuff. Wait. That's in Wuhan, you know, this the exact opposite of Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, not Wuhan. It actually starts off with a metal fetishist, where he ends up collecting pieces of metal, and he ends up getting a metal rod and inserting it into his thigh, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen it's actually kind of gruesome enough as it is. And of course, you know, when you stick a random dirty piece of metal in your skin, it was getting infected. You know, he was running out, scared of going into a hospital. I don't think they ever really say.
No, they didn't. It felt like it kind of jumped, but
like it almost doesn't really matter what that guy's story was at that moment.
Yeah.
But he ends up getting hit by a car, you know, and then we end up following the guy that hit him, the driver of the car.
Yeah.
I think then it kind of goes into like ends up getting a metal zit. And
yeah.
that thing just
yes.
pops.
This is all about body gore, like body horror all the way here.
It is that's another like this. As much as this is a tech horror, it is a body horror movie as well. Like this is amazing in that sense, especially if you can't watch a zit being popped. You might want to skip the scene when he looks in a mirror. Just look away for 5 minutes. You'll be good, because that is actually kind of gross.
Yeah,
in a good way. Good. But yeah, he ends up going into a subway, bumps into a woman. The woman gets infected.
Yeah.
And then she ends up attacking him. He's killed her. But yeah, it's like this is kind of like when the movie actually starts kicking off. Like some of my favorite sequences in this movie is what happens during this whole fight scene is when they actually end up zooming back into that warehouse shop.
Oh yeah, that was when you said punk and all that with it. Like that scene is what popped into my head when you said that. It definitely had a. Oh man, it was like Akira. The fight scenes and all that stuff. It was very, very cool.
Which I think Akira ended up coming out like a year or two before this movie came out as well. So there has to be influences. I didn't come across it, but I'm pretty certain.
The Cronenbergian like figure and all that shit. Like, yeah, it felt like they kind of watched their shit.
But like, I don't know. I don't know what it is about those, like the zooming scenes, like the way that they ended up showing how they run super fast, even though it's just like so jittery and just like that punk style, and it's just freaking amazing. But during like the whole fight scene, you end up realizing that there's a creature inside of her, like pretty much AI, like what I kind of put nowadays terms, and like there was an AI almost kind of controlling her,
right?
And ended up getting her infected, which is why I made the joke about Wuhan, the whole virus. You know, like anything that he touches gets infected and it spreads, which is on topic, on point. It's only been 4 years since the start of it all.
Yeah.
Right. So like there was this one scene that I thought was actually really funny. This is when he's actually transforming and all that stuff, like right in front of his girlfriend. And
that's the one that stands out to me.
Which, I mean, it stands out for like another reason, but like this part like made me like laugh really hard. Like he's transforming and then he freaks out, runs into the bathroom, and like doesn't know what to do, and he ends up like sticking his hand out the bathroom door and it's just turned into metal.
Oh yeah.
And just a delight in her eyes. Like I could just imagine like nowadays memes like where like he shoves his hand out and it's a phone that has like Instagram on it and she's like Instagram. It's so stupid, but it just made me laugh at that part.
The drill dough. That that stuck out to me. I was like, what the fuck am I watching here? And I couldn't look away. It was fucking great.
I don't know why I haven't heard that name, but I love that name for it. The Drill Dough. Holy shit. Oh my god. Yes, the amazing drill dough like ends up penetrating and end up killing her for the first time. Like, it's amazing. If you want to see a 15-inch robotic drill dick,
and you do.
You actually do. It is impressive. Like, it is a Hammer of Zanzibar before the Hammer of Zanzibar. But like later on, like we find out that like the OG tech doesn't really die. No. So the person that they ended up killing, the metal fetishist, I'm eventually going to say that word properly for the first time through, was the one that was actually infecting him and the girl that he ended up killing before. If that makes sense, if you could follow along with what I just said. But he ends up coming to life again and bringing back his girl. Oh my god, it's actually a mess actually trying to explain this whole scene.
To be fair, in the movie, it feels like they jump around hella hard with it. Like, they're just like in action sequences in animes and stuff like that. It feels like they cut scenes, start next one. There's no blending time or anything like that. So it's easy to kind of get lost. I feel like that's a common thing with some of these Japanese films. If you're not paying attention and you fucking blink or you walk off to get the popcorn out of the microwave, you're fucked.
Yeah,
you got to rewind.
Already missed so much of it.
Yeah.
It is a trip of a movie.
Yeah. It's easily stated.
Like, it's not incredibly hard to follow for the most part, but at the same time, though, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, it kind of doesn't really. Like, you kind of have to really be just like let go of everything and it's like, all right, I'm just gonna enjoy this movie and hopefully the story that's there it like sticks out to you for the most part.
Yeah, even by the time you finish the movie, I mean, it's a great watch. Don't get me wrong. It's just by the end of it, you find yourself still a little lost, and you almost you rewatch it again. I mean, there's just so much going on in it, and you like by the end, you're like, I need to process what the fuck I just.
Well, that's like one of the great things. I ended up watching this for the first time on The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, and he ends up helping like bridge like so much more story like into it, like actually helping you out with a little bit more of the understanding of that movie. But at the same time, though, he also helps you out learn that the movie makes no goddamn sense, like, which is true. Like, it's just a fun watch. Like, if you're into like actual like metal music or punk, I'd probably say lean more close like punk. Like MC5
is 100% against the grain for sure in every fucking way.
Yeah, like, it is a great watch.
It's very nihilistic and the character's thought process goes.
Yeah, like it's like even like when you kind of like reduce it down to like this movie could be looked at as like more of like an industrial type horror, body horror, like a sci-fi. I've even come across it being called a cyberpunk.
Yeah, cyberpunk.
Like, it's just whatever, but they're all correct. Like, it's not just a horror movie. It's not just a tech. It's not just body horror. There is,
multiple elements.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
But like I'm putting this like into the tech horror because it is. Like, it suits the needs of this episode for the it is a tech horror where it could be looked at as the industry just like tech coming in and just becoming part of ourselves, part of our lives. Like, we are attached to our phones, we are attached to our vehicles for the most part nowadays.
Oh, especially with where it was filmed and where we are now. We are in like tech meccas of where we're at. Like, I mean, everything's coming out.
We are like a light version of that movie in a way where so much of us are wearing watches that are linked to our phones. Piece of metal. Like, we have headphones on a lot of the time.
New Google Reality fucking goggles and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, like we are becoming this movie, just a more sexy version of it in our reality.
It's way different for sure.
But yeah, I ended up kind of coming across a little bit of an interview. I am going to paraphrase some of it. But he ended up kind of saying that technology is all around us and it will consume us with how alluring it is, regardless of the harm it does to us. But that's actually the way he said it is perfect. Like it is like that's why I'm starting this off as a virus, like as it is tech. It is the all-consuming, all-watching eye. It is here.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they saw this, of course, back in the 80s. It's nothing surprising. I mean, there was a huge Japanese tech boom, I think, in the 60s in America. If I want to say, I can't remember the exact time frame, but yeah, they're like, shit out. So yeah, next we're moving on to a movie that everyone knows, and that's Ringu, or The Ring. That was out in 1998. The Japanese one, not, of course, not the American remake.
Naomi Watts, for sure.
Watts.
Yeah, I like the fact that they try to base it in Seattle because
The remake.
Yeah, for sure. But otherwise, I feel like the story was a lot more. It was involving, far more involving than the Americanized version.
Oh yes,
So,
I know. I'm actually kind of curious if they decided to do it in Seattle, if it was just because it was dark and gloomy like Japan, or if it's the kinship that kind of like Seattle kind of has with Japan.
I mean, between technology, the use of transport over water. I mean, they use ferries a lot in both of the both versions of the movie. So, I mean, there is like a close relation.
I think both of them are like newspaper writers as well, or reporters. And I want to say, I mean, Seattle was kind of booming, or no, I don't know. Like Seattle is kind of known for a lot of the articles and all that shit too. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's a bridge there.
Yeah.
The Narrows, that is. I'm kidding. But yeah, right now Ringu is streaming on Shudder and Tubi. You know, give it a watch if you haven't watched the original. Like, highly recommended.
Absolutely.
It was directed by Hideo Nakata, which I almost kind of want to bring it up real quick. It has nothing to do with the movies, but the Japanese style. A lot of times they end up using their surname, like their last name, before their first name.
Oh, all right.
Stuff. So I am kind of Americanizing it, where we do the first name then last name. So if you ever end up like listening to any of the, I don't want to say behind the scenes or like interviews or whatnot, they might end up saying like Nakata, Hideo. But you know,
they put family first.
Actually, yeah, your name, yeah. I think a lot of other countries end up doing the same thing, or they refer to you as your last name. But yeah, this movie did end up coming out, or not this movie, but the movie, like the short before this, came out in 1995. So this is technically the second movie in a way, but it was more so like a TV movie, like It, with John Ritter. Like there is a callback. But it ended up. This is one of the movies that helped jumpstart a huge boom with the J-horror trend in the United States, where like, all these movies that we're talking about has been remade, like at least in America, and they've also had plenty of sequels in America and the Japanese sequels as well, which all the Japanese ones that I've seen have been really extremely solid.
Yeah,
I don't know if I watched any of the American sequels, to be honest.
I definitely didn't.
Yeah. Not talking garbage about it. Yeah, if you watch one of our first episode as well, where this movie had some of its origins in the Shinrigan experiment, we are not talking about it on this episode. You're gonna have to come back when we actually talk about this movie again.
Yeah,
like right now we're talking about the tech elements of this movie. But yeah, this movie has become like so big, I feel like, where it has transcended into other movies making fun of it or paying homage to it. Whereas like Scary Movie 3 had the whole, like I think the whole premise of Scary Movie 3 was based off of The Ring.
Yeah.
Even recently, or like Holliston, one of my favorite TV shows, had an episode that was Ring based. And recently, at least here in 2023, when this season of Futurama came out, they had an episode, a segment of The Ring. And like when I saw it, I just laughed, and had the hugest smile on my face. Like, yes, my two favorite things kind of interweaving again. But it also has one of my favorite Japanese actors, Hiroyuki Sanada, which if you've seen like almost any Japanese movie or that has like a samurai in it, or any American movie with a samurai.
Wasn't he in one of the Mortal Kombats?
I want to say he was in some of the Mortal Kombats. Most recently, he was in John Wick 4.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I mean, he is like the very well distinguished, like that no nonsense man. Just like he's an amazing actor. Like everyone has seen him,
right?
Like for the most, like if you guys look him up, or if I post a picture of this in the post, like you're like, oh, that motherfucker.
Yeah,
yes,
right,
I know
right.
exactly who you're talking about. So for the people that haven't seen this movie, let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. So pretty much, you end up watching a movie, a videotape, a cassette tape. Let's get that straight. It is a cassette tape.
It is a cassette.
Not a stream. You end up dying in 7 days. That's it. That's the movie. That's all premise of the damn movie.
Yeah. Good luck.
Movie's over.
Good luck.
Like,
yeah.
Move on to the next. But yeah, no. So like a group of kids end up going to a cabin, and they end up watching an unmarked tape. Just kind of curious. And later on, just like moments after the video ended, they end up getting a phone call, saying that in 7 days you're dead. 7 days go by. The group of kids all end up mysteriously dying with an odd look on their face. And one of the kids, her aunt, which we end up following her, ends up looking into this cursed tape on why people are dying from after watching this tape. So, of course, she ends up watching it. Weird things happen. She shows it to her ex-husband. Her kid ends up watching
leaves it out overnight, and the kid watches it. Which
no, I don't think leaves it out. I think he ended up stealing the tape from her and bringing it over to her
is that
dad's.
what? Oh, okay,
I believe so, because she ends up like yelling at him, like, "Why'd you bring this?
What the fuck?"
But yeah, and they just end up trying to, look into the history on the tape, how it was recorded, who recorded this, what was the meaning behind all these little segments.
Which is one thing I feel like the Americanized also. The imagery that was shown on the tape, it was when I watched the Americanized version, especially with that part where the nail goes through the fucking finger and pushes the nail bed up, I was like, ugh. Things like that weren't necessarily done. They definitely tried to pry on your mental faculties in order to scare you.
It was more of that
they wanted you to think about it more than show you,
like almost a slow burn, just kind of giving you that emotion through it, and that kind of that feeling throughout the movie.
Yeah, even that sunken in face, that awestruck face that they had when they died, it was just painted differently when in the Americanized version. But the story was a lot more creepy.
That's almost the thing. Like this one was by far my favorite, because the story, just the feeling you get from it. But the American remake, there's one scene in it that I feel like they did a whole lot better, and it was when Sadako, which is a killer, ends up coming out of the TV.
Oh, yeah.
Remake. That one was just...
The way she moved and shit like that, like she was almost glitching, like with the way a VHS would kind of just flicker and just...
Like that pretty much... Like, all right, kids, a little bit of a history. So when you pause a VHS tape, sometimes it'll flicker and it won't be like a nice, clean image like it is like when you pause a YouTube video, which I highly recommend you watching. Or at least watching this video, not so much YouTube. Okay. But yeah, so I mean, as much as like this movie isn't like in like tech, like kind of how we would want to assume or how we think of a tech horror movie is for the most it is the way that you could kind of look at it is a cursed tape, which is a form of technology at its time frame,
right?
And it is being passed one by one and wanting more consumers, like actually killing, because they want Sadako wants more lives, or wants that curse spread, wants to revenge for her death. from like her mother's like, committing suicide during this whole eruption and stuff. Like there is more to this movie than just a cassette tape that is cursed and tries to kill you. But like that is the tech element of this movie is, I mean, the cassette tape. We're going to go ahead and move on to another movie. Like this, Ringo was so freaking good. Like I feel like it has to be one of my annual watches, to be honest. But this next movie is The Suicide Club.
No, I didn't get to see that.
No worries. Like this one is not streaming anywhere. You either have to rent it or buy it. I think I ended up doing it on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken. It was directed and written by Sion Sono. This is kind of like where this podcast could be kind of a little bit of a bummer because of what was kind of going on in Japan in the 90s. And I think it was a huge boom in 97 and 98 or 96 through 98. I might have written that 97 and 98. But yeah, the movie starts off pretty innocent for the most part. So you end up, you're in a subway and you have like these kids, holding hands in front of the yellow line, like for like where the train comes. And, they're just singing a song that you kind of think, unless you're reading it with the captions on, like it just sounds like a song they're singing, but they're counting down stuff like, all right, what's happening here? But when they count down as the train comes, they all jump onto the tracks.
Oh, shit.
And this train plows through these kids. I'm laughing. It is messed up that I'm laughing over this, but it is just like how it is shown. It is so over dramatized on how they just spray blood everywhere. You just have people just standing there, then they just get sprayed with blood, and they're like, oh,
like, damn, yeah.
Like it is shot to be comical over this horrific scene, but it's
our coping mechanism. Deal with it.
I don't think it is a coping mechanism, but it's also pretty funny. Watch the damn movie. Like I recommend it. But you end up finding out that it was there were 54 girls that ended up jumping onto the tracks during that scene.
No shit.
Like the movie starts off with a 54 kill count.
Holy hell.
Yeah. So I mean, kind of keep in mind of like there is a lot of deaths in that scene that committed suicide. I mean, obviously the name of the movie is Suicide Club, so you know where we're going. But during this movie, you end up following some detectives trying to figure out what's causing all the recent mass suicides. While there's someone in the department that thinks that suicide, it's not just suicide, it's more of a murder. Like there's murders going on. But suicides continue to happen all throughout. Some more kids joking around, like they're just on top of like their school. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go kill myself. Come watch. Don't you want to see? And then they go to the edge of the building, like they don't really mean it. And then all of a sudden, other kids kind of jump up and like, oh, let's do it. And it's just like all of a sudden, they end up actually jumping. So it's like, oh, like they're joking around. It's actually not going to happen. It actually happens. All right, but there's also like the only connective tissue that they could find, which they don't really figure this out until later on, is this. Oh gosh, I can't think of the actual. Kawaii, like the cutesy bands, like they were like a kid band. Like I think they said the average age is like 14 of this kid band, called Desart, DESSART, at least English translation into it. But they're just popping up everywhere. They're the mass media, like the craze at the time. But yeah, between actually 97 and 98, so this is off topic of, not so much off topic, this isn't about the movie, but between 97 and 98, there was a 34.7 increase in suicide rate in Japan around that time. That's more than 30,000 cases. That's a whole lot.
Did they have similarities at all? Or, I mean, other than the fact that they were all suicides, but like...
Pretty much the only connective tissue is just suicides. I know Japan kind of looks at suicide a little bit different than America does, but it was not really going too in depth into like the whole suicide because one kind of never really understands how, or not so much how, but why someone can commit suicide. You know, I mean, there's a lot that could go into a person's mental state to actually cause this act. And I'm not even going to try to imagine what it was over there during this time frame. But pretty much the government didn't really care too much during this whole peak. They were just kind of like almost brushing it off, like they're not really caring about it. They're not doing anything about it.
Just population control.
Like it almost kind of seemed like it.
Fucking wild.
I found that quite insane, but that's what kind of helped make this movie the way it is. And unfortunately, that's kind of the topic for some of these other movies that we're going to be talking about later on. But you end up back to the movie. You later find out that the group is sending out a subliminal message. If you exclude the lyrics, like pretty much if you actually don't pay attention to the lyrics, which a lot of people don't listen to lyrics when it comes to songs, they listen to the beat, the rhythm. But their lyrics are actually kind of dark and almost kind of telling you, like saying, "We'll miss you when you're gone."
No shit.
So this band was actually helping cause people to die or to kill themselves.
Oh, no way.
It was the media and the tech getting to you, consuming you, and forcing you to end your lives. It kind of is cool, but I mean, the movie's cool.
Don't. Yeah, I mean, that was fucking awesome. I like that.
But yeah, I mean, in hard reality, like that kind of ruined the movie right there. So I mean, so you already learn it, but the movie is still really fun to watch, even if you know what the ending is. I mean, you kind of pick it up as a watcher. Probably at least for me, I think it was like the second or third time Desart ends up popping up. I was like, I bet you something to do with their lyrics and stuff. Like kind of reading them and looking more in, like reading what they actually possibly intended in the lyrics. And like, I understand. I mean, music, like media is very influential. Like art is. I don't want to say media. Like art, music, and movies. They could help someone in many different ways.
Yeah.
But all right. Next, on to another movie. Called Pulse.
Pulse was fun. I that one was probably one of my favorite. I mean, obviously the Iron Man was by far but that one was very, very interesting. I liked the really the whole story. Really, it just.
That's the thing. Like, all right. First off, Pulse came out in 2001. It is currently streaming on Tubi. Directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. But yes, the whole feeling of the movie, like I ended up getting a vibe from like 28 Days Later.
Yeah.
That came out in 2002, like a year after this. I had that almost that drawn out, menacing kind of hopelessness.
Yeah. It felt like it was just dark throughout the whole movie.
Like even the vibe throughout Pulse, where like you have that weird dial tone, like the dial up sound that kind of goes on, that weird creepy electronic, like it really helps create a really creepy atmosphere.
Yeah,
in that movie, that I think that's probably like almost the star of this movie is the atmosphere that is created during all of this.
That's what usually sells it. Like, don't get me wrong, the delivering of exposure to what the big reveal of the monster and stuff like that. Like, of course, that's what I'm going for, but when you can paint the whole fucking thing and capture it just by the presentation of it without exposing too much,
get drawn into it. Like
music does that in the scene, but really when you got the whole overcast vibe going on,
even sometimes the lack of music, just that silence could be like draw you in. Like it's intentional. I mean, it is like scientifically proven. They've done these studies, but like I recently watched Godzilla -1 minus color, like about 2 weekends ago. That movie is fucking phenomenal. I can see why it hit a lot of people's favorite movie of 2023. It is a scary movie. The storyline, you actually care about the actual people. Like it was, the movie was just so freaking much. I highly recommend it to actually everyone, not someone that's just like, if they're not a fan of Godzilla, if they're not a fan of Japanese films, like I saw it in black and white, which I actually recommend the black and white over the color, just because it kind of gives it a little bit more creepy.
Right.
Like the movie is, like it's not a prequel or sequel, but it kind of feeds into like the original Godzilla. At the end of it, you end up feeling like if they had the technology back when Godzilla came out, this would have been that movie. Like it is, like, oh my God. It is such a fun freaking movie. Watch it. Watch it. But all right, back to Pulse. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. So yeah, the whole part of the movie, basis of the movie is we have a group of friends where one by one they end up offing themselves, end up killing themselves.
Yeah.
Another suicide movie, which, like I said before, like there were a bunch of suicides in Japan.
Yeah. Starts off
so.
with a floppy disk, right? That's what, at least that's what she's coming over to get.
I think it was a floppy disk. Like a lot of it was, like a webcam or like a website they ended up watching.
Oh, yeah.
So it was kind of like the first like streaming, OnlyFans website where you watch it and you die. It was. Oh gosh, let me see what I wrote here. Wish I wrote better, spoke better. But yeah, you end up seeing a weird face and like an image in the video that you watch, and they end up killing themselves in the stream. You don't really end up knowing why, other than again, like there's no really meaning behind it.
I feel like the first death in the movie stuck with me more than. I don't know. There's something about how she came back. She was in the room with him. You know what I mean? And it all went down like, oh, the level of guilt that girl must have.
One of the ones, like, there was so much happening. Actually, there was, oh my God. All right. Let me try to get my thoughts straight. All right. Now, all right, let's go back to like the ending. One of the last kills, what actually kind of got me a little bit, which I'm going to bring up when we get to that point. A lot of these haunts end up usually starting with like a phone call where they end up just saying, help me. That the voice on the phone just repeats, help me, help me. But it's the person that ended up dying, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. I couldn't quite tell because it was so broken up. But I want to say it's a person that was recently killed themselves, ended up asking help me, or it was a spirit or whomever was doing the killing, trying to get more people into it. But like a lot of times when people end up like killing themselves, they almost see a ghost. The camera turns around and turns back to the person that was just there, and they end up just being dust on a wall.
Yeah,
just a shadow for the most part. Like, but all right, the scene that I was kind of talking about, like near the end, like I love how they set it up. It's when Kawashima ends up running back into the warehouse.
Yeah,
to get the gas tank or to fill up the gas. Like honestly, I feel like it's just a perfectly shot on how it builds up that tension. Just taking off the cap, setting it down, and the cat. You just watch the cap; it just slowly rolls and then rolls and then rolls into this room. Which I guess I probably should have mentioned. A lot of times when they, in order to keep the spirit into a room, they end up taping up all the windows and all that stuff with red tape.
Yeah, well, red or orange tape, whatever. But yeah, they try to trap it in there.
Yeah. So the gas cap ends up rolling into it. But as you see him pumping up the gas, I believe the camera slowly shifts, and you see the door in the back, and you're like, oh shit, here's that red door, and you just see it creeping open, and it's just like in your head you can't help but saying like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It had one of those Final Destination like build-ups to death. You see it coming, you're like, when's the
so freaking much. I don't know, that scene just kind of it get me, but it just drew me in that much more. I'm like, oh, I like this kid. Like,
yeah,
here,
right?
he's
he's the best character out of all of them, really. It had to happen. It feels like that's the horror movie trope, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's my curse. Every time I watch a horror movie, I'm like, that's my favorite character. Everybody in the room goes, shut the fuck up, he's gonna die now. And it
which that's honestly an awesome thing about this movie is he's not really like the main character in the beginning. Like,
No, he's not even brought into like halfway through the film.
yeah, like he's present, he's there, but he's not like
He's not a
one
part of the
main.
group. Yeah.
No. And then all of a sudden, like the last half of the movie, it's all about him trying to survive,
Right.
trying to figure out what's causing these deaths and trying to get away from tech.
Yeah.
Because that's what we end up finding out, where all this the tech ends up like taking your soul. It's just taking your life. It's consuming you. As I said, I don't want to repeat myself more than I already do in these episodes, but death is here. Like at the end, like one of the last quotes I really enjoyed was, "Did not write her name, damn it." But the last words that were spoken was, "Death comes to us all. If so, maybe we would have been happier if we had gone with the rest. But we chose to keep going into the future."
Yes.
And stuff like it's easier. It's almost easier to die, but we chose the harder road. But she says this while she's so. God, I really do jump around. I do not describe these movies well. So it's a girl that's with Kawashima that just ended up dying that I was talking about. But she ends up going on a ferry, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And the captain's traveling around, and this event's happening all around the world, not just Japan. Tech has taken over everything, and I think they're headed to like South America. Like very kind of bleak ending.
I had that Dawn of the Dead kind of ending. They're hoping to get away from this, and
everything's gone. Everything's dying.
Yeah.
All right, next movie is possibly one of my favorite Japanese directors. Like I don't think I've seen a movie of his that I disliked. The director is Takashi Miike.
Mm-hmm.
Miyake. Like I've heard so many different ways. Miyake. But yes, I'll end up posting it here on the bottom of the screen of his name. But the movie here is One Missed Call that came out in 2003, and it is currently streaming on Screambox and Arrow, I believe.
I feel like this one had it all. Really, I mean, but they presented it well. It felt like it had build up every single time. And it had a touch of comedy with some of these fucking things. I mean,
did.
I'm a sucker for comedy inside of horror.
But that's one of the things. I think that's Takashi himself. Like that's one thing I love about his movies. Like they just keep going. Like he keeps a lot of things practical, but he has he also uses CGI to kind of push things a little bit forward. Kind of make up for things that don't work out right or just needs that little bit of a amplification.
Right.
But I love his movie so freaking much. Like I don't think you've seen it yet, but As the Gods Will.
I need to see that one. So I am so looking forward to seeing that.
That movie is streaming on Crunchyroll right now, which I highly recommend watching it on there.
I'm usually all about those self-made like horror scenes, but sometimes CGI definitely does justice, especially if you can do a comedy. And that movie looks like it's just.
As the Gods Will.
As the Gods Will, yeah.
Like, there's no way that movie could have been done without visual, like CGI.
No, absolutely not.
I feel like it did that movie good. If you could look past like how like shoddy it is, but like otherwise, it does not take away from the movie. If you get past that.
Well, I feel like in One Missed Call, they definitely did a combination of the two, at least with some of the editing and some CGI. Like the one that the as far as I got into it, I fucking love the part where her hand is off, but it's still dialing on the phone. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
I'm actually very curious. I need to look into this. Like, I'm curious if that scene was practical or if it was actually CG.
I felt like it was a combination of the two, like between green screen and, you know what I mean? Like, she could have just had her arm done up.
Right.
And then it edited out in CG.
Which I feel like that had to have been it. Or, like, because I always kind of think of during Tropic Thunder.
Oh God, yeah.
Where, oh my gosh, I forgot his name. He ends up blowing apart, and he Ben Stiller ends up holding the guy's head, and like when he's kind of shaking it, the guy's mouth is moving up and down. That movement was actually CGI.
Oh,
and stuff. So like, it was just like that subtle
good.
touch, but
Yeah.
it made it so much better. It added more character to that character's death, which that's another good movie. I don't understand why people hate that movie so much.
There's something about Robert Downey Jr. Fucking thing.
Playing a dude disguised as another dude. Freaking, oh man. Watch that movie too. They'll have fun. You know what I mean? It's not all about horror. It is, but you know.
Well, all of it had a touch of horror.
Like,
That's what made it more fun.
actually, no, I could bridge the two together. All right. So in Tropic Thunder, there's an homage to Frankenstein.
Where?
Yes. All right. So near the very end, when Ben Stiller has a kid on his shoulders and stuff, and he's running towards the helicopter,
Okay.
that's a homage where he ends up like getting stabbed from the kid, and he takes the kid and just chucks him off. Like that was that play. I'm like, all right, you got me. All right, bridge. It's a horror movie now. But yeah, it's. Oh man. But yeah, straight off the bat on this movie, man, it is freaking creepy.
No, they kick it off pretty strong, and it doesn't really lose momentum. I honestly didn't get to finish the movie because I had to rush out, but I didn't want to walk away from it.
That's the thing. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there is like really a dull moment. Like, even the dull moments are like helping, push the story forward.
Yeah,
and
you're
not
wanting to pay attention to it.
There's even parts like, he does this in almost all of his movies too, like where there's moments of breath. There's the scene that I was actually going to bring up in the last movie where I think the two girls are in the room, dead ass silent, so there's nothing going on for I think like a solid 2-3 minutes, and then all of a sudden the ringtone goes off and stuff, which that's a great freaking ringtone. I think it's actually set as mine. But that just kind of helps add that element of what's going on. Like, something happened. Obviously, like the phone's getting ring.
Haunted. It's like a haunted music box kind of a ringtone. They definitely played it up in this version versus the Americanized version. This one was 100% more creepy in every single fucking way.
I don't think I watched the American one of this one.
It's not worth it. Don't fucking do it. You already treated yourself. Don't fucking mess with the Americanized version on this.
All right, so if you want a good torture, we'll watch the remake. Otherwise, if you actually want to give yourself a gift, watch Takashi's One Missed Call. Like, it is a solid gem of his, one of his many. God damn, I love this guy, man. But it's kind of going like the silence. It's just like this sound of all of his movies. All right, I gotta stop talking about all of his movies. We're talking about this one. But it's been I don't remember the last time I saw. Like, I remember seeing this movie like a while back, like years back. I kind of forgot about it, to be honest. It's weird. But then I started watching. I'm like, oh my god, I forgot how amazing it is. It was just like the simple ringtone, kind of like the dreadfulness, like where even the killer that you don't really see, the spirit, ends up putting candy in the like the mouths of the dead person. Like, this movie is almost like oh gosh, when did Final Destination come out? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'd say that was late 90s.
Is it late 90s?
Yeah, early 2000s, late 90s.
I think it had to have been like.
I honestly didn't start watching that series till the second one.
It had to have been pre 9/11 because I don't think they could have done a plane crash like that post 9/11.
I mean, they push the envelope in horror movies, and that's what makes horror so fucking punk, in my opinion. Is they don't give a fuck.
Like,
that's what they're all about.
Good horror movies don't give a fuck. Like, they actually want to try to push that envelope. They want to give you something that kind of like, why'd I watch this?
Yeah.
Unless you're into this whole elevated movement, which watch our other episode and we talk about it for 2 minutes. But I guess there's an amalgamation in this movie as well of the other trends that were going on, or a lot of the other Japanese horror trends, with The Ring, The Grudge, Dark Water, and Pulse, which I did not really I couldn't really make the. I didn't quite see the part where it referenced Dark Water. But with Pulse, like that connective tissue was like the whole killer tech. The whole phone call was killing everyone. Same with Pulse.
Phones were heavily
that
called clearly.
Yeah, it's in the title.
Yeah.
Like the race to survive, because I think you had 3 days. I think this was like 3 days in advance. They was letting you know you were gonna die.
Yeah.
So there was that ring element.
Fucking countdown. Yeah.
There was that creepy kid, which was like an homage.
I feel like kids in movies just make it.
A lot of these Japanese movies have kids in them, and they do such a great job being creepy.
Some Children of the Corn shit. Yeah.
Like Children of the Corn have nothing on this. It almost feels like those kids are creepy. Like they're scary. They're little assholes. Like you're glad to see them die. But like these kids are already dead, and they're creepy, and you just want to kill them again. Come back so I can kill you again. Fuck. But yeah, they like the one thing that's like this the connective tissue that this has with Final Destination is like the whole you're following death, like how Final Destination, like you kind of saw like what how death was killing everyone and how it was actually manipulating things. This one you actually kind of saw through like the first like a FPS version of death. You kind of saw it kind of coming and killing and murdering these fucking people. Like one of the scenes that's actually pretty fucked up, it's kind of near the end of the movie, is they end up one of the girls ends up getting a phone call, and exorcist wants to do like an exorcism on this whole thing. So they end up throwing her on TV and broadcasting her death or her exorcism on live TV to try to get rid of this whole death scene and all that stuff. So it is so freaking mean. So like this woman is already scared to death. Like she's already seen people die from this. Like she already knows her death. And here they throw her on TV to make some money for the most part. Like, oh, see, look how fake this is. Look, like she's not gonna die. It's on TV. And she still ends up dying. Like this is like such an amazing scene because it's so much action is packed, and I think this is like 7 or 10 minutes. Watch this movie for this scene, if anything. So when you get to the scene, there's 20 minutes left. Watch the rest of the damn movie.
Yeah.
Damn it. It is. I think probably one of my favorite movies from these movies that we talked about. To be honest, maybe it is because it's from Takashi Miike or Mika.
The Iron Man, I liked it because of how much it disturbed me a little bit. I was shocked at how much I was disturbed by such a thing. The Jolo scene stuck out to me, but by the end of the movie, I was like, no, I'd watch this shit again.
That soundtrack.
Yeah.
I honestly...
I bet you fucking do. Goddamn weirdo.
Just put it on a record player and just have it like on an infinite loop. Just so relaxing. It is.
The movie was made for you. Even in the fucking description, it's like,
yeah. If you actually watch the movie to the very end, it says "Thank you to Curtis that's not born yet." You will love this movie. Well, yeah. So like you kind of realize that a lot of these movies weren't really like tech by today's standards for the most part. I shouldn't say for today's standards because. When I kind of think of tech horror, I don't really think of these movies, to be honest.
No, I usually think of something like The Terminator or even Megan. Like that's technology attacking you directly. This it feels like it's a little bit more like haunted technology.
Yeah, like it is. Like we will bring up some of these movies again when we talk about pretty much the same era when it comes to a lot of their like spirit, because like a lot of Japanese lore is spirit based. A lot of like remembering the dead.
Yeah.
Which I always thought was kind of weird on how they were so kind of okay with suicides.
Yeah.
But I know, but when I think of tech horror, I always kind of think of even like Trick or Treat. Like it was a record player, I mean, I feel like that's kind of like that bridge between like how I think Trick or Treat's a tech horror, like these movies are tech horror, where it is a evil record that like a pretty much possessed record, like the gate and all this stuff.
But then what about Deathgasm? Would that fit along the lines? I mean, it's written, but once you perform it with music,
I feel like that's almost like a tech horror. Like I feel like that'd be like if we were building like a bridge, I feel like that would be that connective tissue from like Evil Dead to Trick or Treat. Because you have Evil Dead where it's a book that comes to life, or not to life, but brings back the Deadites. And then Deathgasm, you have what's written, and you have to perform it to actually make sound. And then from that goes into Trick or Treat, where you actually have that. I guess Evil Dead, the new Evil Dead, is kind of like
no, the Evil Dead, the newer one.
Yeah,
definitely.
It's kind of like Deathgasm light with less comedy.
Way less comedy. That's good though.
But like you have even like Evil Speak, which is a computer based, like a legitimate computer based horror movie back then.
Was that one with Edward Norton?
No. Or what was that one?
Not Edward Norton. Edward Furlong, when he got the video game and he had to play it, and it's kind of sucked him into it. It's like a snotty little shit to that fucking movie too. It was great.
Gosh, I always forget.
Every
the name
time
of
I
this
say
movie.
it, I want to say Videodrome, and I know that's not it.
But Videodrome's another one that's I think of tech horror. You know?
Yeah.
I mean that's another Cronenberg movie that is fucking phenomenal, and it is a tech. Like it's almost just like The Ring.
Yeah.
When you kind of think about it, it's like a cursed videotape that makes you have a vagina on your chest and pull out a timorous gun. Like, not Dead Alive. Oh my god, yeah, I'll put it in post on what that movie is that you're talking about. But that video game is amazing as well. Like that movie is not talked about enough. Like I know it was hated because I think it came out around the same time like Ghost Ship came out. You know, the remake of House of Wax, like that whole industrial blue tint movies came out. And I would say that was like the same time frame where like everyone hated those movies. They just wanted to hate.
Yeah.
They didn't want to love them. Nowadays, everyone wants to love them.
Some of them I did have beef with. I didn't appreciate something like House of Wax. So some of these things they had to grow on you. But when somebody said, I can't remember what movie we were talking about, but when they said box office, I'm like, most sought after movies, and even a Blu-ray of it's like $90. Like, what the fuck is it $90 for?
That's one like bringing up again As the Gods Will. I have no idea how it was released. Like there are like no copies on eBay at this moment. Like the only copies are going for like $200. Like where you could go on Crunchyroll for I think it's like $7 and watch it.
Yeah.
So it's like, but then you have nerds like me that want that physical copy.
Yeah. Right.
And we'll probably end up paying that $200 years down the road when it ends up being $500 or some shit. But like these movies, like, all right, let's bring it all back in. Let's bring it back in. Let's rewind the cassette tape. Yeah. But yeah, these like a lot of these movies, they are like we said. I wouldn't want to base them off of like say that they're tech horror movies, but they are tech at its heart.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, because they are spirit based and ghost based at its heart, but the connective tissue is the tech that actually is here, consumes, and
I mean you're gonna pick it up. It doesn't have to reach out to you.
Out of curiosity and this is a pretty good genre. These are great movies. I can't speak for the American remakes or the sequels to any of these movies, except their Ring franchise. Like I've seen, I want to say a lot of them, and all of them were quite like bangers. Like they're pretty freaking good. But yeah, like tech's gonna take our lives, man.
Mm-hmm.
If it hasn't already, like it has consumed us.
No, and it's stated in more than just Japanese movies and stuff like that. I mean, even Terminator was like, this shit's gonna.
Yeah, I mean, they just kind of show what's actually legitimately happening, and knowing that we have no control.
Right.
Again, bringing up, like you said, Terminator. Like you have tech coming in, and it's here. You know where we're going.
Yep.
And it's gonna kill you. And what are we doing in real life?
Yeah.
It's here. We can't do anything.
Nope.
We want to do something. Are we? No. Because you guys are guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. Because if you're watching this, there's my proof. But yeah, I guess that is the end. Well, again, I'm Curtis Gerhardt.
I'm Stephen Miller.
And we hope you horror a problem. See you next time.